Welcome to Sports Scope, the most influential sports talk show in the nation.
What is today, the 19th?
Stay tuned for updates and great sports content.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler, on this 12th day of July. On the 12th day of July, my true love gave to me, right? Only kidding. Listen, got a great show on tonight. The New York Jets, kicking and screaming, have been dragged into Hard Knocks. Going to be a great Hard Knocks coming in with the storylines coming into the season. Got a lot I want to talk about that. We'll get to that probably right after the break here. ESPN, long story about who leaked those emails and this that caused the John Gruden resignation and firing and everything. Interesting story there. Justin Jefferson did not list Kirk Cousins in his top 5 quarterback list. I'll talk about that. Also, Bob Huggins, I wanted to get a little bit more into that story. Now he wants his job back and to be reinstated. Some allegations there. And Victor Wembanyama getting very serious in an interview and candid about his ambitions and, thoughts on European players taking over the league and more. I'll be back in 49 seconds, folks. We'll hit the ground running here on Sports Scope. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to sports, that is sports with an S, another S, scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program. All righty then, I'm back here live. Okay. Nobody wanted to go on Hard Knocks this year. But you got a team like the Jets who were basically forced to do this. Hard Knocks will be next month. We are technically about 2 weeks away from training camp. And another week and a half after that, around August 5th, you're going to get the Hard Knocks there, Pickles. I'll probably order HBO for that month. It's going to be too much to turn down, too hard to turn down. I'm going to spare the $20. Order it for the month of August, and then cancel the thing. It'll be a pain in the butt, but I want to see Hard Knocks. Last time they were on Hard Knocks, listening to here's Rex Ryan back in 2010, 13 years ago on Hard Knocks. My microphone's kind of.
Do we understand? Make sure we play like the New York Jets and not some slack team. That's what I want to see tomorrow. Do we understand what the I want to see tomorrow? Let's go to eat a damn snack.
He gets real serious, then he says, let's go eat a snack. Yeah, Hard Knocks will be near right around the August 5th, somewhere in there. It's usually around the first, either just before the first preseason game or just after the first preseason game. I'm really looking forward to it. And you said, well, obviously that was from the 2010 Hard Knocks here. Hard Knocks story that I thought that was hilarious. It was Rex Ryan, being Rex Ryan, cussing like a sailor, Pickles. Now, okay, so you say, what's the biggest deal with Hard Knocks this year? Okay, the biggest issue is it's not Aaron Rodgers, okay? We know Aaron Rodgers is the big, it's the big draw. He's a star quarterback. He has spent a lot of time in New York. Since this trade went down, he went to the voluntary mini camps. He went to the involuntary mandatory mini camps. He's going to concerts, including what's that chick's name? Taylor Swift, with players from the Jets here. He's brought over some former Green Bay Packer players, Alan Lazard to name one here. I think Randall Cobb's signed. So all that is part of it. Here's the biggest storyline right here. It's not that. It's Mekhi Becton. Mekhi Becton, really good year at left tackle. 2021, gets hurt. He has a knee injury, forced him to play, wanted to play left tackle but ended up playing right tackle heading into 2022 training camp. Becton says the Jets are to blame for his season-ending injury, putting him on the other side, more stress on his right knee. They put him on injured reserve. They end up moving Dwayne Brown over there to the left tackle here. He gets hurt later on in the season. The Jets have, according to Pro Football Focus, towards the end of the season, the 31st ranked offensive line. Only the Tennessee Titans, and we've talked about the Titans on this program being the worst at the end of the season. Now, that being said, Mekhi Becton is supposed to be back. He is supposed to be back. Dwayne Brown is back. Okay. Not to mention guys like Elijah Very Tucker, who was tried out in that position as well. He's been moved over to guard. That's the biggest issue of the whole team is that offensive line. It's not the defense. We know Aaron Rodgers is going to be Aaron Rodgers, okay, even though he had somewhat of a down year last year. But, I went back and looked at their schedule last year. Even with these offensive line injuries, I was curious at how well they played throughout the middle and towards the end of the season. If you look at, remember in week 9, this team beat, with Zach Wilson, he only had 154 yards. They beat Buffalo. Now, I understand that was in week 9 on November the 6th. So they did beat them then. That was during the shuffling of the offensive line. Now, there was some injuries towards the end, and you could see this. They lost from a week 11 to week 18. So we're talking 8 games here. They lost 7 of those 8 games. But a lot of those were 11-6 to Miami, 20-17 to the Jets, 27-22 to Minnesota, with White being the quarterback there. So you can kind of see if this offensive line, and we're going to see that because Dwayne Brown wants to play left tackle. And I mentioned this, Mekhi Becton is really talented. But Robert Saleh says, listen, you're going to have to earn that left tackle spot. So if I'm the people at Hard Knocks, that's exactly the storyline that I'm going to focus on. Obviously, we're going to show Aaron Rodgers. You're going to show the excellent Sauce Gardner at cornerback, and they're going to show a few camp battles between some of the people trying to make the team. I think that's a little overplayed. I think if I'm the producer of Hard Knocks, I'm not going to put so much emphasis on that. I think they need to change their whole theme of Hard Knocks. If you ask me, Pickles, I would definitely put my concentration, if they're smart, into this Mekhi Becton, Dwayne Brown left tackle battle. Does the loser want to get traded? Do they accept playing right tackle? I would interview and have the offensive line coach, ask him what his thoughts are, talk to the offensive coordinator. We're going to use some footage there. We're going to go to practice. We're going to look into the games, meeting rooms. That would be my whole center point, because if this group is clicking, okay, this team won seven games last year. We know the defense is big time. We know they're good enough, okay? They even got maybe they should have added another offensive lineman with their pick. What they picked, 12th, 13th, something like that. Maybe they should have just kept that pick and use it for an offensive line instead of an edge rusher. So we're going to find that out. We're going to find that out in Hard Knocks. I cannot wait to see it. I don't think there's going to be some kind of curse or nothing like that. I just think if this group is healthy and Becton wants to play either inside or right guard, or if he flat out beats out the older 37-year-old Dwayne Brown, and Brown just plays the other side because his check's already cleared, this is going to be a pretty good offensive line, especially with the Breece Hall coming back. Dalvin Cook is also still in the mix to sign with this team. We're coming down on deadline time, okay? We're coming down on deadline time for guys like Dalvin Cook. I was just talking to a friend at work today. Guys like DeAndre Hopkins, players like that, to sign not before training camp start or not after training camp starts, just to blow off training camp. So it's going to be really interesting at how Breece Hall's come back and play. What's their thoughts on him? What's their thoughts on the rest of the depth chart, per se, of this team? Now, Robert Saleh's a pretty, you got Breece Hall, Michael Carter still on this team. So we'll see how it plays out. This is a much underrated wide receiving core. I thought for the longest that a guy like Corey Davis would end up, he's actually listed as a number 2 receiver behind Garrett Wilson. He's not listed as a starter. It's got Allen Lazard, Mecole Hardman as the other 3 starters at wide receiver, Tyler Conklin at tight end. So those battles, Corey Davis is potentially a top receiver, a number 1 or number 2. I think Wilson's going to show him that he's the man. But I do think that there is a possibility. There is a possibility that Davis could beat out Lazard. I've seen flashes where Davis looked way better than Allen Lazard. So that's going to be fascinating in the for the New York Jets. As far as Hopkins is concerned, I think Hopkins, he mentioned he might want to go to Buffalo as well. Buffalo said they'd want him to play there if the money was right. That would be interesting, something to kind of calm down Stephon Diggs. So this is going to be really interesting to follow. This is something I want to look into, this Hard Knocks thing, to see how far I think the Jets can go, because it's very hard to handicap the AFC East. I'm leaning between the Jets and Miami. I'm really heavy on Miami to win it right now. And I know Buffalo is hovering in there, but this stuff about Stephon Diggs is really concerned me. I know what a cancerous wide receiver can do. You think about guys like Dez Bryant, what he did with Dallas at the end where they had to move off of him. You look at players like I mentioned Terrell Owens, where it didn't work out there. Stephon Diggs, obviously part 1 when he was with Minnesota. So, Antonio Brown, when things start to go south with these guys, it usually does not recover, So that's a food for thought type of thing. And as far as the AFC East is concerned, but if this line is looking good in camp, hey man, they got just a good enough shot to win it as anybody, because they are very tight on the defensive side, and they open up Monday 9-11 against Buffalo. Right now, I would probably pick the Jets to win that game. Right now, got to see the health again of these 2 players. Of both of those tackles, and see how that shakes out. Going to be an interesting. Hopefully, that would be what the producers of HBO will focus on, folks. Pickle says Hartman is a spiel. Yeah, Hartman is a very fast player. He would probably get the touches that I think Aaron Rodgers would want a guy like Randall Cobb to get, because he can run like the wind blows. He would be a screen guy. I would use him, for example, I would use him like a Atlanta Falcons use a Cordell Patterson type of player, something of that nature, if it's me. D-Hops, the side of ring, put Rodgers in Bubble Wrap. You ain't lying about that. Wide receivers versus BDs. That would be an interesting one-on-one that I would want to get film on, Sauce Gardner versus Garrett Wilson with Aaron Rodgers throwing them the football. Want to see how that one will work. You're going to get a lot of oohs and ahs. Their camps are going to be packed with people out there in East Rutherford, New Jersey. Your Jack Hirsch's of the world, which I may try to bring him on, right? I may try to bring the famous Jet fans on and Hall of Fame boxing writer Jack Hirsch on my program and interview him. What does he think about Hard Knocks? A lot of guys saying it's a major distraction. If you know what you're doing, I don't think it's going to be that big a deal. But we'll see. We shall see. Wuku Saki. Okay, staying with the NFL, and I'll just kind of work my way around all these other stories. A lot of stories on the horizon here. Okay, Justin Jefferson. You know, I just wonder, is there any kind of beef in Minnesota? Justin Jefferson, probably the best wide receiver in the NFL right now. A little taller than Jamar Chase, a little younger, quite younger than a Devontae Adams with the Raiders team. You could definitely make the case for right now, for today. Last year definitely had the best year in the NFL as a receiver last year. And it was funny. He puts out on a podcast, and it made the news. Justin Jefferson, star wide receiver, LSU draft pick, says that his top 5 wide receivers are not going, or his top 5 quarterbacks in the league. He did not name his own quarterback, Pickles, which I thought was hilarious. He says his top quarterbacks are Patrick Mahomes. He uses Aaron Rodgers. I guess he had a lot of respect for Rodgers out of playing, and Rodgers didn't even have that good a year last year. He says Patrick Mahomes, obviously, nobody can really argue with that. I would say Burrow, but Patrick Mahomes, his is Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts. Now, that was 1 year of Hurts. And then Josh Allen. Nothing. The funny thing is he didn't put his own guy, Kirk Cousins, in there. Kirk Cousins is in the last year of his contract. I've been talking about this for about 2 years now. I will say days, about 2 years. That I think Jefferson knows that they're overpaying Kirk Cousins on this team, which means they do not have a defense. And I think they won a lot of close games last year, and they end up going out and getting a guy like Jordan Addison, who could be an absolute steal in fantasy next year with that system. Wide receiver out of USC in their first round. They didn't go out there any defensive players. Actually, they lost a defensive player. I want to say he went to like Cleveland or something. Either way, they've lost another defensive player. They didn't take one early. And they're pretty low in the defensive standings. Got lit up by Daniel Jones. The rest is history. Could you make the argument? Well, do they just, if they're playing 500 ball at the end of this year, do they make a move and go after one of these quarterbacks in the draft? Do they make a big trade and go after one of these quarterbacks in the draft? Do they simply extend a guy like Kirk Cousins, who's overpaid as we speak right now? That's a lot to think about if you're a Minnesota Vikings fan. They're not going to play as well as they did last year. A lot of those were close, one-score games. They came back from, 28 points or something like that against the Colts. They're not going to do all that this year. Although the division's not that great, the Bears will be better. The Packers will take a step back. The Lions, I think, actually, I think the Lions split with them. The Lions are the class of the division. And by the way, I'm going to bring on a Lions insider, guy that really knows, Jeffrey Ballrich, a big Lions fan, covered the Lions for a long time. Not really covered them. Big time fan, has his own podcast. We'll talk about that team here. Or do you go another route? when you've got a guy like a Justin Jefferson, which Spot Track, ironically today, put out a likely the Spot Track is a site that breaks down contracts, and they also do potential future contracts for stars that are coming up for their next contract, which is quite interesting, Pickles, if you want to think about it. But I'm going to click on this real quick, because if you look at a guy like and they mentioned Saquon Barkley here too, and that's another guy I would have trade. But anyways, okay. Now he's due for an extension. This is a potential likelihood type of contract for Jefferson, and this is what I'm getting at. Okay, this year cap hit for Jefferson, very team friendly, $7.8 million. Even next year, in an extension, $15.9 for a guy of his caliber at his age. He will be 25 next year. Man, that's a steal. But this is, think how good this guy's been playing. You look at 2026, 2026, you're looking at, or 25, excuse me, $27 million cap hit, $34 million. That is quarterback range for Justin Jefferson in 25, excuse me. It's 23 now. I'm getting ahead of myself, right? 25, $27 million hit, 34 and 26, 34, 27, then back down to at 2028. He'll still be 29 years old, $28 million cap hit. Here's my thing. As good as he's playing right now, you could kind of team in. Think about the first round pick. I think they got a first and a second round, if I'm not mistaken, for Tyreek Hill. And they end up winning the Super Bowl in Kansas City. This guy's so good. He's considered to be a better route runner. He's a younger player. You could get probably 2 to 3 first. If you get 2, you could still get multiple picks in the future for a guy like Jefferson. This is a conversation that I would have, because this money is ridiculous. They've already drafted Jordan Addison. They've already drafted, and if they're smart, if it's me, I would look at the possibility of trade, because you could get such a massive haul for him, even if you didn't decide to bring back Cousins or not bring back Cousins. You could use those to leverage them to move up to get one of these better quarterbacks in the draft in 24, because you have went as far as you can go with Cousins. But if you got a talent like a Justin Jefferson out there, there's some teams out here that would probably give you 2 and 3 first-round picks. They would give you multiple picks out of one draft, a first, a third, and maybe a fourth, a player. You could really, really leverage a guy like that and fulfill your defense. You still have a guy you drafted in Jordan Addison, and you still wouldn't have to pay that god-awful amount of money for a guy like this. You have multiple holes on your team. This team is not going to be that good next year. In my opinion, they're not going to win that many close games. I just don't see it. Pickle says, without Jefferson, without injury, he'll work every dime they paid. He is, but you can get a whole lot for him, though. You get a whole lot. He's not a quarterback, and a lot of teams, they're going to figure this out the hard way. He's going to figure he's not a quarterback, and you're only going to go so far with the guy like a Kirk Cousins, is my point. Arizona, and would love JJ. Yeah, Arizona, man, they gave up a lot for Houston, got a whole lot for DeAndre Hopkins, man. Hopkins had one good year there. Now he's in his prime. He's coming off his first contract. So I would shoot for 3 first-round picks and another pick to be named. I don't know who would, want it. You just have to see who's got a rookie quarterback, a quarterback on a rookie contract, maybe a Trevor Lawrence, somebody like that. Upgrade his guys. you would have to look at something of that nature. Maybe it could be Houston with C.J. Stroud, rookie contract guy. Maybe it could be a quarterback here in Tennessee. I don't think so, but because Tennessee still has other holes to fill on their team. Okay. You know what? I'm going to stay. This is a huge story on ESPN. Very long story about Jon Gruden. And what it is this thing took me about 25 minutes, like a mini book, Pickles, about who leaked what. Who leaked what? Jon Gruden. There was an investigation into what's his name there? God, what's this fool's name here? Daniel Snyder, and somehow some emails between Bruce Allen, the general manager, and back in 2011, I want to say, back in 2011 when Jon Gruden was calling football games for Monday Night Football at ESPN, about him saying something about DeMar Smith with some racial comments about his lips and all that. He was the player representative or whatever for the Players Association. And also something came out about him making some homophobic remarks about the commissioner and really dogging out the league and dogging out this guy. We know that happened in October of 21 in the middle of the season a couple of years ago, pretty much forced to step down. Did not want to step down. Mark Davis was ticked to the high heavens. And this article goes on and speculate who could possibly have leaked those emails. Speculation that the commissioner leaked it. There was speculation that DeMaurice Smith himself got knowledge of this, and then he leaked it. But there's more evidence pointing to one person. Let me go down to this and see I'll let you know how this thing started off here. So it says when Davis and took this conference call with Roger Goodell and the NFL general counsel, this guy named Jeff Pash and this other guy named something Davis here. I think it was one of the investigators. Leaned towards sticking by Gruden, but Davis felt immediate pressure. According to sources with direct knowledge of call, Goodell repeatedly told him, "You have to do something." Oh, that was Mark Davis. Excuse me, Mark Davis being the owner. He said, "What are you going to do?" Counsel tells Mark Davis here. That's Al Davis's son, the owner of the Raiders. The statements incited. He believed the league office had to pressure the owner to fire the head coach. Now, mind you, that Gruden is in a 10-year deal here. He's in like year 4 of a 10-year, $100 million contract. The Raiders don't have that kind of money. Mark Davis is, I've read in previous articles, he's one of the poorest owners in the league. As a poor owner, they're all pretty wealthy, but he's one of the poorest in the league. And, Davis is quoted as saying, "Mother effer," quote, and his aspiration. So, long story short, all this stuff just gets mysteriously leaked after the back and forth. The league knew about this for a while, for a little while, about all these comments and stuff. They try to cover it up, and then boom, all this stuff gets mysteriously leaked to the New York Times. And then this article goes on to say, through sources, that, okay, it really points towards Daniel Snyder himself. 2 reasons to leak this, and a couple of reasons. Number one, why didn't you say, well, it's in a Washington? Why didn't he leak it to the Washington Post? Well, he didn't like the Washington Post because they've been criticizing the dude for years. That dude being Daniel Snyder, one of the crappiest owners in the league. Been a piece of crap since 2000. The value of the team has drawn down. They were right, like second. only behind the Cowboys at one time. So, anyways, so did you say, well, why would he go that far in running a John Gruden? So Mike Florio, who's really good at digging into stuff like this, so John Gruden, this is what Mike Florio, what Pro Football says, why that he has beef with not only the NFL, Daniel Snyder, but with John Gruden. He says John Gruden has wondered aloud why Daniel Snyder might have been out to get him several years ago. They reported an interaction in which Snyder called John Gruden fat, and Gruden then mentioned driven Snyder's head into the asphalt. Now, John Gruden played college football. I've seen John Gruden when the Tampa Bay Bucks played here in a preseason game in Nashville, Tennessee. I don't know, 15 years ago. I've seen John Gruden. He was working out before it was a preseason game. Before the game, about 5 or 6 hours. It was during the like 1 o'clock, about 6 or 7 hours before the game. And this guy's pretty cut. You know, he's a former quarterback. He probably could have drilled this computer nerd's head in the ground. That's the truth of the matter. And a guy like John Gruden, from a guy like Daniel Snyder. So the more you read about it, I mean, you know, if you call a guy fat and he says he'll put your head in that, I mean, you should probably just laugh it off. But, you know, Snyder comes to me, the more I read about this guy, he's just a piece of crap, just a POS. You know, everybody I hear, every time I read something new about Snyder, that just seems to be what he is. Guy kind of backed into being a billionaire, one of those accidental guys, got rich in his 30s here, and thinks that he can buy his way out of anything, and no really respect for anything or anybody, you know. I mean, that's just what I get from the guy. You see what I'm saying? So, and then also, Pro Football Talk, Mike Florio goes on to say, if I can find this quote here, he says, Florio, who's a lawyer, is not a big fan of Gruden, but he did say John Gruden's still out for vengeance against the NFL. And if he can stave off the NFL's effort to force his lawsuit to arbitration, he might get it. Because, you know, you're looking at these private emails, pushing this guy out of his livelihood. Nobody else's emails get you know, leaked out like that. And the league is forcing him to be fired for something like this. And the league doesn't own up to who leaked these emails to the New York Times. I think, like Mike Florio says, there was a settlement with the rest of that contract between Mark Davis and John Gruden. I bet it was not for, say, $60 million that was owed. He was finishing up year 4, the $60 million that was be owed to John Gruden. Now, remember, John Gruden didn't coach last year, okay? He's not going to coach this season. He's working with the Saints, and the Saints, the league has said did nothing about that. Now, Brian Flores, we know about his lawsuit, suing the league for racism or whatever. That's the former head coach of the Dolphins there. And he was hired as an assistant with Pittsburgh last year during his lawsuit. Now he's a coordinator with Minnesota. Now, of course, Minnesota don't have any players. That's why I said their defense is still going to be pretty bad. But so the league didn't do nothing about that. Gruden's now helping out with Derek Carr implementing this offense here. I don't know exactly what his title is for the Saints, but so the league is not really forcing him not to work in the league, even though he's suing the heck out of this league, you know. And there's a chance that it could majorly get settled out of court, and I think he's going to get a lot of money, like Mike Florio says, and he should. I mean, listen, I don't condemn anything he said, but you know there's other emails out there. He had nothing to do with that investigation. There's no reason for that. But I think probably Snyder did that. He seems like the type of guy that would do something like that. I think he'll probably get, I don't know, maybe 70, 80, 100 million. It just depends on how much he can get out of them. But I do think he will. I think he'll win. It sounds like something off of Mad Men or it's very dramatic drama, you know. I mean, this guy, Power Stroke, kind of like Dallas Pickles. Dallas Pickles. Thank you, Kathy. Appreciate it. Slander all over this season. Yeah. I mean, it was a lot going on here. I think Gruden will. I think Gruden will bounce back here. Snyder got his $6 billion. He's water under the bridge. So the Commanders, they got a new owner. They got a new quarterback, even though their quarterback did play one game last year, Sam Howell. I'll say this about the Commanders. The Commanders could be with their new offensive coordinator there, Eric Bieniemy, with that defensive line, with all those skill players that they have, they could be a dark horse playoff team that nobody's talking about because they got a lot of talent on that team. Snyder has sold this team. They've got new ownership. I think it's the owner that used to own, that also owns the Philadelphia 76ers. So they could be a dark horse playoff team that nobody is talking about. The only game he played, he won. Remember, he beat the Cowboys at the end of the regular season. Sam Howell there with all those targets there, with that defensive line, with a much improved offensive line, with that sense of urgency, a clear air there without this owner and all that drama around Snyder. Going to be an interesting team to follow. I may get into the NFC East sometime next week here. All's well and ends well. And could be an unpaid consultant. I don't know. It just depends. Yeah, and they could beat the Giants, Carlos. They could very well beat the Giants. They're one of the only teams, folks, in the regular season to beat a healthy Philadelphia Eagle team. This was before the injury to Jalen Hurts. That Jalen Hurts injury didn't come till late in the season to the Chicago Bears when he hurt his shoulder that year. Okay. All right. Let's see. Okay, there's one more football, and then I've got a take on Victor Wembanyama. We are counting down the days, Carlos. Okay, today is the 12th. We're about 72 hours from something either happening or not happening with Saquon Barkley. Okay. Donna Rossini says Saquon and the Giants are in a contract stalemate. She said today, this is a lady from ESPN. She's the one that she lasted. They didn't lay her off. She says Barkley playing in week 1 against the Cowboys is in serious question if they don't get a long-term deal done by Monday. So today's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I guess he's got a little bit extra time here than I speculated. So she says they've got to get something done by Monday. We've talked about the offer that was on the table back in March, $13 million. He should have took that, 13.5, like Tony said. And Tony Montana, the great Tony Montana in Scarface to what's the guy's name? God, what's his name here? Sosa. For Sosa, he said, forget about 13.5. The Giants are saying, forget about 16, 17. We're not doing that. Being a running back's no duck walk anymore. Okay, paying a running back is no duck walk. So again, there's still time, Giant fans. There's still time. What you should do is call the Chicago Bears. Ask them what can we do to get Barkley over there. They got the money to pay him. They've got a really good upstart team. young quarterback, third-year quarterback, Justin Fields. Give us a third-round pick. We'll take him. Dalvin Cook is still out there. Sign Dalvin Cook for half of what he signed Dalvin Cook for $6-7 million versus 14 to 16 that Barkley wants. Go out, draft another running back next year. That's what I'm saying. Forget about 17-5. Forget about 17-5. The last couple running backs, it didn't really work out for them. I think maybe Henry's pretty close to that. He turned out to be okay. But we Christian McCaffrey, yeah, it didn't work out. It did not work out for him in the Carolina Panthers. We talked about that ad nauseum. And, Barkley, he's just not making the right choice here, man. But, hey, you never know. You just never know. Okay. Going back to the round ball here, Victor Wembanyama. Wembanyama, I'll tell you what, this guy, he's got quiet confidence. He's not a brash guy. He's not an egomaniac. But he did say something interesting the other day. He says that the NBA is less physical than European basketball. Whoever thought we would hear that 25 years ago? Victor Wembanyama says the NBA is less physical than European basketball. Used to be the other way around. Remember, had to toughen up these kids from European basketball. Had to toughen up Dirk Nowitzki. Had to toughen up Tony Kukoc. They got tough. Nowitzki got some teeth put in it. He had a tooth knocked out. Remember the Last Dance, Tony Kukoc and the way that the Bulls and Jordan and Pippen roughing him up and during the USA 92 Olympics. They went up signing the guy. He ended up playing well. The rest is history. Then he also says, Wembanyama also says, he's about looking into the data of all the number one picks and which have impacted they've had. I'm trying to be better than every one of those guys before me. So he wants to be great. He wants to be coached. He wants to play. It was the Spurs' decision not to play him. So I mentioned my opinion. The guy looks like he's going to be all that and possibly then some. He's going to be a guy you can build around. And listen, here's a quote from Colin Cowherd. Now, you say, well, why do you play all these national guys? Because a lot of these national guys, they have sucked up to the players in the past. Stephen A. Smith, Colin Cowherd. Now they're starting to come around to my line of thinking is that this AAU culture of and non-me basketball culture, it's not working. Look at the last few MVPs. Look at the last few championship winners here. Joker, Giannis. You're starting to get that young players, European players, being the players that you want to build around. Listen to what he says. He makes some good points here. I'll comment after the quote, but let me play this. Listen up.
Summer League stuff. And he was talking about Wemby. A guy's going to be good when he's got a nickname, hasn't even played a game in any sport. Here's my prediction in 4 years. In fact, we're seeing it now. Our domestic players from our systems, G League, college, wherever, will be the most popular and sell the most shoes. European players will dominate our league and win the titles. This last draft is a prime example. Wemby is mature and layered and will make an immediate impact on the defensive end and probably will be very good offensively too. Scoot Henderson will be more dynamic, more talked about many nights, but he can't shoot. Because the European basketball system, I know it hurts, is better than ours. They value development. We value popularity and rushing you to the NBA. In Europe, their system is we. In America, our system is me. We're looking for likes. Our guys will get richer. Nike will love them. Their guys will win. Europe's best players best young players are now the world's best young players. Their guys will have titles. Our guys will have clout. And that's the way it's going to work. If you ask me today, pick 4 players under 30 you'd build your franchise around. 4 for 4 Europeans. Luka, Giannis, Jokic, and Wemby. 4.
Now, Luka, I'm not as high on Luka as everybody else, but if you need 30 points, he's going to get you 30 points, okay? Obviously, the Joker, Giannis is under 30. He's already won, again, Defensive Player of the Year, which means he values that side of the ball, something we've had a problem with, although Kawhi Leonard would play defense when he's healthy, you know. So Giannis has won both sides as best he can. Joker played some good defense in the playoffs last year. We saw that distribution. We saw the distribution of the basketball. Again, I'm not as high on Luka. I understand Tatum is one of those guys, but look how inconsistent Tatum is in the big games, okay? But I'm still holding out hope of a guy who's from Atlanta. He's only 21 years old. Anthony Edwards out of the Minnesota Timberwolves. I know that he has a really high ceiling. Everything I see from him, he's got a really high ceiling. But, he makes some really good points here. And I'm glad guys like him and Stephen A. Smith, a lot of our media pushing, get these guys. They're not pay these guys. And media just worried about pay the poor player instead of develop the league, make the league better. Pay the player, pay. And of course, David Stern wanting to go do away with the bringing players in from high school. Remember, Kobe came in the 90s. Kevin Garnett, instead of letting these players develop more in the college game, like a Magic Johnson, like a Larry Bird, like a Michael Jordan, played a few years in the collegiate game. This is what you get. You get what you ask for. And then, of course, David Stern also pushed for the international game to make more money. Now they're eating our lunch here. Even though I like these players, they're eating the Americans' lunch, and now they're playing more of a better brand of basketball, which is about getting other players involved. You say, well, what is the solution, or what do you think is going to happen? What I think is going to happen here is he mentioned Scoot Henderson. The thing about Scoot Henderson, the number 3 pick that went to Portland, he went to a very new program. Program? It's a semi-pro league. He skipped his senior year in high school. I guess he got a GED or something. I don't know. But he played in this overtime elite. He didn't play his high school year. He played in his overtime elite league, and he got like $1 million or something for 2 years. He's got more polish than a typical 1 year of high school, senior year, and then 1 year of college. You go in there, guys are not even taking their studies serious. They're not developing. You see all these Kentucky players. They look good, but they're partially developed. They're not really playing into anything. That's why Kentucky gets put out early in the tournament, because they know they're just going to go through. They're driving through Kentucky. And guys like him in the past and ESPN guys in the past push instead of develop, becoming a better product. And now you got guys that's taking forever to develop. Like he said, you got a lot more Kyrie Irvings out there, James Harden out there, Westbrook out there, instead of more team guys that want to develop, want to be want to win championships, instead of every time something don't go my way, I'm going to push my way out of town. So I think what will happen was, going back to Scoot Henderson, skipping, maybe we have more of a European model. A lot of these guys in France, they played in these other countries, Serbia, they've played professional basketball since they were, 13, 14 years old. So maybe we lean into that. I would like there to be some type of education. I would like to be some type of NIL. I would like to the right thing to do would just say 3 years to be on the safe side out of high school. Then you can come to the NBA. 21 years old enough to drink, okay? That would be my thing. But that's not going to be it. It's not going to happen. So I'm thinking maybe we have more of a European model. I think that our guys are proud. I think that they're going to see it. I think the young players, there's a 14-year-old player out there right now, 13-year-old, that's going to be very talented and the next number 1 pick. He's going to say, I want to pass the ball more. I want to look into development. I think that's going to change some things. We're a proud country. Remember when we used to get our butt kicked in the Olympics? Then we started sending our pros over there. We started making some adjustments. So we'll see how it works out. But you got to get called out, Pickle says Wembanyama may get turned up to 10 to 15 games. We'll see. I mean, I think he's a very skillful player, I would have dumped both because these guys won't weigh too much. But we'll see. All right, so it's a lot to be said, but it's we have a lot of pride over here. I think, like I said, there's still time for an Anthony Edwards and maybe a Tatum. Unlike other guys, I like what Boston is doing. I do think that Porzingis is going to help them out. They win the championship next year, maybe that narrative gets changed. But right now, today, I think Denver's probably going to win it again, if you ask me. Okay, here's a story I wanted to talk about the other day, and I got sidetracked. Okay, so Bob Huggins was back in the news over the weekend. Speaking of WV or VW, it made me think about West Virginia. So Bob Huggins, now he wants to be reinstated. Said he never signed this resignation letter. He says something in regards to his wife signed this thing. Remember back last month or back in June, right? He gets this DUI. Gets a DUI in Pittsburgh. It's his second DUI since 2004. He was already suspended and a reduced salary from some homophobic slurs he said back in May, I want to say, on a radio station. And I'm saying with all the new rules, my theory was after he said those homophobic, because those slurs were like, those are give me not to say, the F word that rhymes with maggot, not to say. I was told not to say it when I was living in New York 20 years ago. So, long story short, the stuff he said about a savior, guy 69 years old. My thing is the NIL, the transfer portal. 70-something years old, looking at all the other coach, Jay Wright, guys on top are retired, walking away. Krzyzewski had some more years left. Jay Wright had some more years left. I think Huggins, he signed a pretty big extension in the middle of it. He wanted to get that paid for and get fired and make an argument to get paid for. Then he gets the other DUI, resigns, changes his mind, said his wife did. Kind of weird, His wife was pushing for that. I think what it was is he was thinking about all the money. I mentioned this yesterday's program with Keith Engel. He was thinking about all the money he was going to lose. Kind of like when, what's the guy's name that created Seinfeld? You had Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David. When Larry David tells a story about him quitting Saturday Night Live and telling off his bosses at Saturday Night Live, and he's walking down the street and he talks to his neighbor, who was later portrayed as the Kramer character in Seinfeld. He says, listen, why don't you just go in and act like nothing happened, man, since you're thinking about all this money you're going to lose. So he comes back and act like nothing happened. This is what it feels like with Bob Huggins. Bob Huggins saying, I want to be reinstated, or there's going to be legal. So he's going to be taking West Virginia to court. And what it is he don't want his job back. He just wants some more money. And they'll probably settle that case. But I think it's crazy. Not to say I told you so, but I was thinking, well, man, I was thinking to myself, with him walking away, maybe it wasn't about him getting the money and wanting retirement. And then I see this story comes up over the weekend, Pickles. And then I realized, oh, it was. I was right the whole time. Yeah. He wants to walk away. He don't want to quit because he went to school at West Virginia. He's from that area. Okay, I think he lives in Pittsburgh now. But either way, he's from that area, went to school there, may have some problem. Like I was talking about with Keith Engel yesterday. Got a temper problem, may have an alcohol issue. That's the second DUI since 2004. And he's burnt out with all these new rules in college basketball and college sport with the NIL and the transfer portal. He don't want to deal with none of that. He don't feel like and the team's not been playing well. I don't even think they got in a tournament last year. Or I think they did, and they got beat in the first round. Either way, they're not playing up to par. We'll see how that thing plays out. I think it was kind of a crazy story, if you ask me, guys. Man, is that a mouthful. Okay. So anyways, that is all I got for the night. And I tell you what, that is a mouthful. So, yeah, I'm going to keep an eye on this Jets thing. We got this coming up. Monday, we got the Giants thing coming up with Saquon Barkley. Again, Giants just trade him. Go sign Dalvin Cook for a 2-year deal. Save some money. Go draft another running back next year. There, solved your problems. There you go. Bada bing, bada boom. Tomorrow, again, don't miss tomorrow's show. There's this guy, Jeremy Belridge. He's out of Detroit, got his own podcast, older guy, following the lines for a long. I'm curious. Let me ask you this, Pickles. When was the Detroit Lions, by Vegas, picked to win the NFC? No, that's what I want to ask him. How is the vibe in town? What does he think the Lions and this organization's, how are they going to handle being the favorite? How are they going to handle being the hunted? Maybe they were picked to win the North, their division, maybe back in 1992. But then again, that was when Favre was traded to the Green Bay Packers back in them days, So Pickle says it had to have been the Silverdome days. You know what I'm saying? For the so I'm gonna ask him about this stuff. This guy's older. He goes way back. I'm gonna bring up the fact that Jameis Williams, the receiver, suspended, just like Pruitt Farid or whatever his name is, the right tackle for the Titans. I think that's a little nonsense if you think about it. The more I think about it, you're betting on non-football stuff at the football facility. Why are you getting suspended for that? If you can bet on your phone, if you're getting a shower or whatever, you're changing and the game's about to come on, NBA playoffs, whatever, NCAA tournament, and doing some kind of mini count, are there secrets to the other sports inside the arena? I mean, it just seems so stupid to have that rule in place. Now, if you say you can't bet on any sports, period, that's pretty bold, black and white. But if you're saying, yeah, you can bet on other sports, just not NFL, then why is the other sport? What does the facility have to do with betting on other things? There's no secrets to the NCAA tournament inside the Titans training camp. That just seems kind of stupid. I don't know who come up with that, That's the same thing. I was in Kentucky the other day, and they have slot machines, but they don't have card tables. What's the difference? You can lose your money in 20 seconds putting it in the machine, or you can lose it losing a hand of blackjack. I mean, that makes no sense about nothing. I don't know who comes up with this crap, Pickles. You know? You're killing me, Smalls. So anyways, I'll be back on tomorrow, same time, same place here on Sports Scope. Don't miss my interview with Jeremy Belrich out of the Detroit area. We'll talk a little Lions football. Going to be a great story. Kind of wish they were doing Hard Knocks again this year. Have a good night, everybody. If I could find my thing there.